Are we headed for a government shutdown? It's a question that hangs heavy in the air as House Republicans are in total disarray. Forget bipartisan unity. We're talking about a full-blown GOP rebellion. And the stakes? Higher than ever. Get ready, because this could impact everything from your travel plans to the economy. But is this just political theater, or is there something deeper at play? Let's dive in. House Speaker Mike Johnson is caught in a political vice. He tried to push through a spending bill, but it was immediately met with fierce resistance from his own party. Why? Because conservatives, backed by figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, see the bill as a betrayal of their principles. They argue it's too bloated, gives Democrats everything they want, and doesn't address the real issues. Remember, Johnson promised to avoid massive, end-of-year spending bills. This one looks awfully similar, doesn't it? Is he losing control of his caucus already? Donald Trump's fingerprints are all over this mess. He and J.D. Vance publicly criticized Johnson's approach, demanding a streamlined spending bill without any Democrat giveaways. They even threw in a curveball, increasing the debt ceiling. This is classic Trump, injecting chaos into an already volatile situation. But why the debt ceiling now? It's a power play, plain and simple. Trump wants to force Biden's hand and set the stage for 2025. Is this about governing, or is it about scoring political points? And then there's Elon Musk. Yes, the same Elon Musk who owns X, formerly known as Twitter. He launched a social media blitz against the spending bill, calling it outrageous and urging lawmakers to vote against it. Musk's influence shouldn't be underestimated. He commands a massive following, and his words carry weight. But is it appropriate for a tech billionaire to be dictating government policy? Or is he just using his platform to voice legitimate concerns about fiscal responsibility? The Republican Party is tearing itself apart. On one side, you have Speaker Johnson trying to navigate a razor-thin majority and avoid a government shutdown. On the other, you have a growing number of conservatives who are willing to throw the whole system into chaos to get what they want. Representative Thomas Massie has already declared he won't support Johnson in the next speaker election. This is more than just a policy disagreement. This is a fundamental battle for the soul of the Republican Party. Can they find a way to bridge this divide, or are they headed for a civil war? Let's talk about the bill itself. It's called a Continuing Resolution, or CR, and it's supposed to be a temporary measure to keep the government funded. But this CR included billions of dollars in disaster aid, healthcare policy extenders, and even a pay raise for members of Congress. No wonder conservatives are furious. They see this as a typical Washington swamp deal, packed with pork and giveaways. But Johnson argues that these additions were necessary due to unforeseen circumstances, like the recent hurricanes. Who's right? It depends on your perspective. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is accusing Republicans of breaking a bipartisan agreement. He claims that Democrats were willing to compromise, but Republicans unilaterally decided to walk away. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre echoed this sentiment, urging Republicans to keep their word. But is there really a bipartisan agreement here, or is it just a convenient talking point? Republicans argue that the Democrats are demanding too much and refusing to make any concessions. The truth, as always, is probably somewhere in the middle. The fear among conservatives is that this continuing resolution is just a disguised omnibus bill. An omnibus bill is a massive piece of legislation that packages all the annual appropriations bills into one. They're notorious for being filled with wasteful spending and special interest projects. Johnson insists that this CR is not an omnibus, but many Republicans aren't buying it. They point to the thousands of pages of text and the last-minute additions as evidence that this is just another example of Washington's dysfunctional spending habits. Is this really a skinny CR, or is it an omnibus in disguise? The Office of Management and Budget has already instructed federal agencies to prepare for a government shutdown. This means that non-essential government services could be suspended, federal employees could be furloughed, and the economy could take a hit. A shutdown is a lose-lose situation for everyone. It disrupts people's lives, damages the economy, and makes the government look incompetent. But sometimes, political brinkmanship takes precedence over common sense. Are we really willing to risk a government shutdown over this spending bill? The fight over the spending bill could have serious consequences for Mike Johnson's speakership. Some Republicans are already talking about challenging him when the new Congress convenes in January. If Johnson loses the support of his own party, he could be ousted as Speaker. This would throw the House into further chaos and make it even more difficult to govern. Is Johnson's leadership strong enough to weather this storm, or is he on the verge of losing control? Now let's shift gears and talk about social media. A ProPublica/Washington Post investigation has revealed that Facebook played a significant role in spreading misinformation and inciting violence in the lead-up to the January 6th Capitol attack. The investigation found that Facebook groups were flooded with posts attacking the legitimacy of the election and calling for violence against government officials. Facebook executives have downplayed the company's role in the attack, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Did Facebook fail to adequately police its platform, or was it simply a victim of its own success? The scale of misinformation on Facebook in the weeks leading up to January 6th is staggering. According to the ProPublica/Washington Post investigation, there were at least 650,000 posts attacking the legitimacy of Joe Biden's victory between Election Day and the Capitol siege. That's an average of at least 10,000 posts a day. Many of these posts called for executions or other political violence. This barrage of misinformation created a toxic environment that contributed to the events of January 6th. How can we combat the spread of misinformation on social media and prevent future tragedies? Facebook groups have become a breeding ground for extremism and misinformation. These groups often attract like-minded individuals who reinforce each other's beliefs, no matter how outlandish or dangerous. The ProPublica/Washington Post investigation found that many Facebook groups were filled with posts promoting conspiracy theories about the election and calling for violence against government officials. Facebook has struggled to effectively police these groups, and many of them remain active to this day. Should Facebook be held responsible for the content that is shared in these groups? One of the biggest challenges facing Facebook is how to deal with harmful non-violating narratives. This refers to content that doesn't break Facebook's rules, but whose prevalence can cause people to act in ways that are harmful to themselves, others, or society at large. For example, posts that question the safety of vaccines or promote conspiracy theories about the election may not violate Facebook's policies, but they can still have a negative impact. How can we address this problem without infringing on free speech? Critics argue that Facebook was slow to respond to the surge of misinformation and extremism on its platform in the lead-up to January 6th. The company didn't take aggressive action until after the Capitol had been stormed and lawmakers were fleeing for their lives. This raises serious questions about Facebook's priorities. Was the company more concerned about profits than about protecting democracy? Or was it simply overwhelmed by the sheer volume of misinformation on its platform? Whatever the reason, Facebook's slow response was a major failure. Facebook's algorithms play a key role in amplifying misinformation and extremism. These algorithms are designed to show users content that they are likely to engage with, which often means showing them content that confirms their existing beliefs. This can create an echo chamber effect, where users are only exposed to information that reinforces their worldview. This can make it difficult for people to change their minds or to see things from a different perspective. How can we redesign social media algorithms to promote more balanced and accurate information? The events of January 6th have raised serious questions about the future of social media. Can these platforms be trusted to protect democracy and prevent the spread of misinformation and extremism? Or are they inherently dangerous and in need of greater regulation? The answers to these questions will have a profound impact on our society. It's time for a serious conversation about the role of social media in our lives and how we can ensure that it is used for good, not for evil. The events surrounding the government shutdown and the January 6th attack are symptoms of a larger problem: political polarization. Our society is becoming increasingly divided along political lines, and this is making it more difficult to find common ground and solve problems. Social media is contributing to this polarization by creating echo chambers and amplifying extremist voices. How can we bridge the political divide and create a more unified society? It's a challenge that we must address if we want to preserve our democracy. So, what's the solution? There's no easy answer, but here are a few ideas. First, we need to hold social media companies accountable for the content that is shared on their platforms. Second, we need to invest in media literacy education to help people distinguish between credible and unreliable sources of information. Third, we need to promote civil discourse and encourage people to engage with those who have different viewpoints. And fourth, we need to elect leaders who are committed to working together to solve problems, not just to scoring political points. The future of our democracy depends on it. The events of the past few weeks have been a wake-up call. We can't take our democracy for granted. We need to be active and engaged citizens. We need to hold our leaders accountable. And we need to work together to create a more just and equitable society. What do you think? Are we headed for a government shutdown? Is Facebook responsible for the events of January 6th? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful analysis. Thanks for watching.